Hey, it's Avi. What's going on? Welcome. This is an unscripted video, so let's see how this goes. Today, we're going to talk about how to know what to do next in your music. The most important thing to remember about writing music is that the way we write is we hear what's going on in our inner head, our inner ear catches onto something, and then we try to take that and bring it out into the outside place, into the rest of the world, or put it into a fixed medium, like in a DAW, digital audio workstation, or in Sibelius, something like that. Now, what's hard about that is that sometimes our inner ear kind of just loses the trail. We need ways to get our inner ear back. Here's 3 tips on how to do that. Number 1, listen back to the material you've already written and wait until your ear catches something. Now, this is huge because what we're doing here is we are trying to retread the road that we had already been writing on. We're trying to pick things back up. Conscious of this or not, we sort of understood what our ear is trying to tell us, and we had a vision for it. And as we were writing, we were working towards that vision. But we lost that thread, so we need to revisit what we were doing in order to try and pick it back up. More often than not, there's going to be a place in your music where you had some type of reaction, where your ear picked something up before this happened. So try and note when that was and go back to that moment to see if your ear picks it back up again. We're trying to get what we lost, not necessarily reinvent the wheel here. Simple, to the point. Tip number 2, do the opposite of what you should do next. Sometimes when we're writing, we start writing ourselves into a hole. Maybe it sounds a little too much like another song, or maybe it sounds like it's going to go into a really specific type of section, or as Lars Ulrich might put it, it's stock, man. It's stock. Yeah, maybe we don't want to be stock, we don't want to be generic, and we want to be a little bit more interesting. So here's what we do. We Last Jedi our music. What does that mean? We subvert the expectations, right? If maybe we're building up to something intense, right? There's a big build up to something, dun, 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 dun. Instead of having it be a really big, explosive new section, maybe make it really quiet. Do the exact opposite of what you're building up to. Do the opposite of what you should do. This can be really, really powerful, but be careful here. Like we all found out in The Last Jedi, subverting expectations is a little bit of a double-edged sword. Totally okay to be really intense with your tone shifts in music, but make sure that it's intentional and not just because that's all you could think of. In the same vein as it's nice to subvert expectations, it's also really nice when the listener is right, correctly predicts what's going to happen next in the song. This is tip 2A, maybe tip 2B. 2A and 2B, what I want you to do is do exactly what you think you should do. Maybe that resistance you're feeling towards doing the generic thing, towards doing the cliche thing, is really just more about you than about the music. So it's useful to maybe scope out that cliche thing, see how it feels. Maybe it's going to feel right. Maybe that leads to something innovative that piques your inner ear, catches that thread, and then you're going off in a totally different direction that you didn't see prior. Boom. So sometimes you should absolutely do what you think you should do. Follow the generic, follow the cliche. They're cliches for a reason. Don't be afraid to use them. In fact, no one's done it quite like you have, because you are you. You're an individual. No one has ever been around like you have before. So the way you might do a cliche might not make it a cliche after all. Okay, tip number 3, the last thing we're going to talk about. I want you to ask yourself really 2 questions. I want you to ask, what if? I forgot the other question. What's missing? These 2 questions are coming from fundamentally different places. When we're asking what if, we're inviting. We're saying, what could be? What might be possible in all of the combinations in the world of the cosmos? What might be possible? We're asking a very grand question. And what's nice about that is that we're opening ourselves up, right? That's what if. But when we ask what's missing, we're asking for what isn't there. And that's a little bit more specific. This, like tip 1, is heavily based in listening. Essentially what we're doing is giving yourself a little bit more of a guided intention for listening to what your ear catches for. This is just a little bit more intentional than what we were doing in tip 1. You might be surprised on what answers come to you. Sometimes you'll come up with the most ridiculous idea. You think, oh, there's no way this could work, and you're just doing it just for the sake of experimentation, and guess what? It works brilliantly. That's why asking what if is so important. I fooled you. There's actually one more tip. I'm going to call it a bonus tip, all right? And this is maybe the most important of them all. At least it is for me. This is a rule that I personally follow that I think y'all should follow too. Don't know why I said y'all, I'm from New York. What I want you to do is follow the laughter. Most of us are just trying to have fun when writing music, just trying to have fun creating our art or have fun with our friends, right? So when you're writing this music, take a step back, take it a little less seriously, and follow the laughter. Follow what makes you happy, what makes you interested. That joy that is being sparked within you, that is so precious. I know, I'm getting a little sentimental here, but seriously, that is so precious. Something about the music made you laugh out loud. And maybe it truly is crazy and totally ridiculous and silly and just wouldn't work musically. Fine, that's totally okay. But maybe that sparks an idea for something else later on. The idea here is to follow your intuition, to follow what you feel is right at your core, because you're the one writing. Your inner ear has internalized all of the music you've ever heard. If you're a musician, you've been listening and critically listening for a very long time. Trust that. Trust your ear. Take a step back and be a little bit less serious. All right, that's all I have for you today. I hope that this was helpful. This one was a little bit more off the cuff, if you couldn't tell, totally unscripted. I was just trying to think about this on the fly because I really wanted to help you guys as soon as possible. As a quick review, here's what we learned today. We learned to listen back to the music we already written, right? Trying to get our inner ear to catch the thread we were already on. We also learned that we should do the opposite of what we think we should do. Avoid the cliches and avoid the generic stuff that we don't want to sound like, right? On the other hand, cliches are cliches for a reason, and sometimes we should do exactly what we think we should do. Go exactly where the music is leading you. Don't question it. Don't be resistant to it. Just let it go. You never know where it actually will go from there. And finally, we learned to ask what if, as well as what's missing. We're asking the universe at large, asking our inner ear, what is going on? How can we make something more out of this? Where can we go? What are the possibilities? We are opening ourselves up to everything that could be in our music, and that's what we want to do. We want to be open, and we want to have fun, and that brings us to our final point. We want to follow the laughter. Now, if you have that nagging feeling that you can write better melodies than you currently are, that they can be catchier, they can be more interesting, and they can be more interesting again, check out my free guide to 7 ways to write a more effective melody. I'm not very creative when it comes to words, but this melody guide is pretty great, honestly. Over 1,000 people have downloaded it, and they love it, honestly. It's pretty fantastic. It's got a sick conversion rate. So head to justwritemusic.com. There's a link down in the doobly-doo. You can get your free copy. I'm Avi from justwritemusic.com, and don't forget to be awesome.